Oh boy.
When I wake up each day, I feel so weary. Try to face the world, but it's so dreary. But I found that special thing that makes me cheery. Time to do music theory. Music theory.
You're watching Adventures in Music Theory with your host, Dr. Robbins.
Hello and welcome to the Wednesday, April 15 edition of Online Form and Analysis. Today we're going to look at the Sonata Rondo that appears as Assignment 3 in Unit 25, the D major movement by Beethoven. And just to remind ourselves of how Sonata Rondo manages to combine sonata form and rondo form into one little bundle, there are the things that you need on the macro scale to make a sonata form. You need an exposition, development, and recapitulation. And here are the rondo elements that we're going to put into that. We're going to use the 7-part ABAC-ABA rondo form, and we're going to find a way to combine sonata form thinking with that 7-part rondo form. Okay, so as we mentioned already, the ABA at the beginning is going to be grouped together to function as our exposition. Section ABA at the ending is going to be grouped together to function as the recapitulation, and section C will be used as the development section of our sonata form here. And this is how that's going to work. Those A sections are going to function as our primary themes, and they will be followed by transitional passages, and those transitions will lead us to our B sections, which will contain closing and secondary and closing themes, and perhaps even codettas. The thing that's going to happen with those B sections to make this very much like a sonata form is the way they work tonally, where in the exposition side, the B section that contains the secondary and closing theme is going to be stated not in the tonic key, but in a related key. The dominant if we're in a major key, or the relative major or the dominant minor if we're in a minor key. So that's how a sonata exposition would work, right? We'd have primary theme in the tonic, then secondary and closing themes in related keys. In this sonata rondo world, when that B section comes back on the recapitulation side, it's going to change the way it works tonally, and it's going to restate all of its ideas in the tonic key. The secondary and closing theme now are going to be heard in the tonic, just like we'd hear the secondary and closing themes in the tonic in a sonata form. And as far as section C there that functions as the development section, who knows? The question marks to let us know that, like is the case in sonata development sections and binary B sections, this section may be characterized by tonal instability. It may go through a few different keys, may visit all sorts of related keys without really settling comfortably into one. And in terms of what the melodic materials are going to be, they're going to be drawn from things we've heard in the primary and secondary theme areas of A and B. Could be even drawn from transitional materials, but that's how this is going to work. So let's move on and actually listen and see how Beethoven manages to use this way of thinking to craft a sonata rondo movement. Okay, so this is the movement from the Beethoven Sonata 15 in D major, opus fourth movement. Fourth movement's significant because, remember, a lot of times in the sonata cycle, composers like to use a rondo to close the movement out. I made that analogy that a rondo with a catchy A theme is sort of like a tasty dessert or something like that. It leaves you with a memory of what you've just heard and a cute little tune in your head. And although it doesn't happen on this particular score that I've got printed here, there are versions of this piece and there are recordings of this piece where it will tell you movement 4 is a rondo. And I mentioned this with the Mozart piece that we studied in the last lecture. A lot of times a sonata rondo is simply labeled as a rondo. But once you scratch a little bit deeper, you realize, oh, this has the tonal relationships and thematic relationships that I would expect in a sonata rondo. So let's just give this a listen. I'll talk us through it. It's in a major key, so think about major key relationships for our sonata form. The tonic is D, the dominant is A. The first thing we hear will be section A, and it'll be our primary theme in the key of D major. Here we go. Transition. We're moving to A major, so once G sharp starts showing up, like that, that'll start getting us closer to A major. Secondary theme, key of A. The closing theme. It's that bass melody. And now our primary theme, key of D. Section C, the development section. We've wandered into G major. You can hear how this is drawn from the primary theme. And now this is stuff that's closer to the closing theme, especially once he gets the melody and the bass, you'll hear it. Drifting through all these keys. G minor, and here's D minor, and here's the closing theme upside down. Notice all the A, the dominant pedal, what we expect at the end of a development section in the sonata form in D. Which is the recapitulation. Yes. And we're going to close this A section up with a PAC in D major in a second here. There. And now the transition with all those running 16th notes, but we're not going to go to A major this time. We're going to stay in D major, and we're going to hear that secondary theme in D major in a moment. Here we go. Hear it, how it sounds a fifth lower now? It sounds a little more mellow. That closing theme in the bass. Now. And here comes the A. We'll talk. Okay, let's meet up on the next slide and discuss what just happened to us. So here's a nice diagram with letters and with measure numbers and everything showing what's going on in this work. It's almost normal, and that's okay. You know, to get into form class and to be a good piece of music and stuff, a piece of music doesn't have to be normal. It doesn't have to do everything by the book. In fact, in some ways, that's what makes it interesting, is seeing how a great composer can find ways to not do it by the book and make something that's kind of fresh and unexpected. And that's what Beethoven does. But clearly, he's writing one of those sonata rondos we've been talking about. And you can see how so many of the things we would expect to happen have taken place here. There was a tonic key put forth that was D major, and then Beethoven placed a primary theme in that and wrote a transitional passage that carried us to the dominant key of A major, which would happen in binary form and sonata form. And when we got to that key of A major, he stated secondary thematic ideas and closing thematic ideas. And those closing thematic ideas happened in the dominant key, as we would expect in the sonata form, and they also created contrast with the melodic ideas in section A, which we would expect in a rondo, because rondo is about the contrast between section A and section B and C, because it's descended from ternary form. The development section, easy to see how that section C functioned as a development section, because it had ideas that came rather clearly out of the A and the B sections. It went through a variety of keys before ending with that dominant pedal in the key of D major, all those low A's that were sounding that like them prepared us to hear D major. And when D major came back in measure 114, it came back with the primary theme that signified the recapitulation beginning in our sonata form, or our sonata rondo form here. And when the transition happened that time, it led us not to the key of A major, but it kept us in the key of D major, and we got to hear the secondary theme and the closing theme stated in the key of D major, recapitulated in the tonic. And then Beethoven threw the monkey wrench. And the monkey wrench was when the A section came back after the B, it wasn't really like it had been before. It wasn't in D major, and it didn't have that little da 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 dum, that little melodic fragment he'd been playing. But clearly, when you look at the music in measure 169, if you're going to have to choose between calling it A or B or C, what are you going to call it, right? It's a lot like the A stuff, because it was in the wrong key. It was in G major, but you all probably noticed that the way Beethoven started that section was with that bass line, that sort of jumpy, jerky doo-dum, be-dum, be-dum, be-dum bass line that always starts the A sections. It's just instead of going A, D, B, D, C sharp, D like it does in measure 1 or in measure 51. In measure 169 it goes D, G, E, G, F sharp, G. It's just transposed up to the key of G major, but that section sounds like it's clearly drawn from the A idea, so we're going to call it A for the sake of making it show how it functions in the sonata rondo world here. And there's the cadence at the end of it, and then there's that quick little coda also based on A ideas that restores the key of D major and lets the piece end solidly in the key it quote-unquote needs to end in. So check that against your answers, and of course if you have questions, I know a guy who answers questions on the internet. So what happens next? Next being defined as Friday, April 17. I don't have a concrete plan for that. You do have a test on Monday, April 20th that will cover units 24 and 25, and I thought we would use our Friday time to review. I will perhaps be considering making myself available for online live review in the form of a Zoom meeting or a chat time. And I will make, at the very least, I will make a short video that will be available Friday the 17th that will tell you, among other things, what to expect on the test on Monday, April 20th. It may also be that this video that shows up on Friday, April 17, will include a short review. Maybe I'll bring in some sonata movements or rondo movements or sonata rondo movements, and we'll go over them in the review thing. But I don't have the most concrete of plans. Again, in case we forget, I'm learning as I go. But I'm always here for you to answer your questions, so ask away. And on that note, I'm going to sign off. So stay healthy and happy, wash your hands, eat well, rest, do your homework, and I will see you all on Friday. Take care of yourself. Goodbye.